Yo, peep game, man. I gotta give some thoughts about Scottie Pippen's upcoming book and some of the things he said about The Last Dance. And to be honest, to quote, I think Shannon Sharp may have said it, but I do like slightly agree with him that some of this has been building. Some of the animosity he's had has been building up for quite some time. Um, but at the same time, this is the same dude that kind of flip flops and says like LeBron's the GOAT, then he says Jordan's the GOAT, and etc. etc. But I want to give like my thoughts about him feeling unappreciated, even though Jordan has said he's the best teammate he had and he wouldn't have won those championships without him and things of that nature. In my opinion, I feel like that should be like good enough. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the easily top three player of all time said, "You're a great player." He does belong in the top 50 best players of all time. I get sick of guys like Skip Bayless saying he's overrated. He shouldn't even been there. He's only there because he's a product of Jordan. It's like, no. Because if he was a product of Jordan, in a sense, wouldn't he be a much more polished scorer? You know, but whatever. Like I do think he's his value. You know what I'm saying? It just kind of depends on like who's speaking on it. It can be overrated, it can be underrated. There are times I think it's underrated, and there's times I think it can be overrated. If someone says like Scottie Pippen's top 10, top 15 all time, like slow down. If someone says he's not a top 50 player of all time or even top 75, I'm like, okay, you're doing too much. But I do think, in my opinion, Jordan said you're a great teammate. You're a pleasure to play with. There's no way he would have won championships without you. And you're a Hall of Famer, you know. But I do think, hopefully, those guys, and I do wish they did this, like squash their stuff or like had like a serious conversation about how he felt about the way he was portrayed in a couple of the snippets on The Last Dance, and hopefully just get that done, and those two can move on. Also, I gotta also say this: Scottie Pippen, you're not the only second best player on the team on a championship team that's gotten overlooked. You know what I mean? The only time I could think recently that they weren't overlooked was what's his name? Steph Curry. Because Steph Curry won the championship before Kevin Durant got there. Like everybody kind of knew what Steph Curry was about. Yeah, two-time MVP, things of that nature. So everybody knew about him, And even with LeBron and Dwayne Wade, everybody knew about him also. Although it's become more recent with people who are saying that LeBron's the greatest player of all time, trying to diminish Dwayne Wade and what he was, and even trying to diminish Kyrie's contributions. And it's going to happen to the second best player. It's going to happen to Chris Middleton. It kind of happened to it would have happened to Tony Parker if he wasn't Finals MVP when when the Spurs swept the Cavs, etc. etc. And I do think it's unless it's like a team type of effort, and like everybody would, for example, like the Pistons, everybody knows that was a collective unit. That was Chauncey, that was Rip, Hamilton. Everybody knows that. Like, I've always said that was the last quote unquote team, especially got a team with no all stars, just solid players that knew their roles that won the championship. You know what I mean? Hell, you can go back to the 2011 finals. Who was the second best player on that team? Maybe Jason Terry, maybe J Kidd. I don't remember, and I watched those finals. You know, so I do think the second best player on a championship team in the NBA is always going to get overlooked when time goes on, especially if they're playing next to an all-time great. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully Pippen can move on beyond this, and hopefully him and Jordan can have a solid conversation and put this shit behind them. But it is what it is. I mean, it is entertaining. It is also something like that gives content creators to go in depth with. But anyways, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. And I do think a guy like Pippen deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. There's no way there's a Bulls dynasty without Scottie Pippen playing next to Michael Jordan. But Michael Jordan was the key to those, was the main key to those 6 championships. That's just my opinion. Be easy, everybody. Deuces.